Hi, I've been back quite some time from an absolutely terrific trip in March 2023 doing the Arctic Circle Trail in Greenland with my pulk. I'll just show some pictures on the background of a really stunning landscape and a stunning hike. So stunning in fact and so satisfying that I plan to go back next March. Now before I left I made a couple of videos detailing my gear choices, and I also said that upon return I would give a frank appraisal on what worked and what didn't work. And I'll start with what didn't work, because failures are always more informative than successes. And what didn't work was guying out the tent, anchoring down the tent, staking out the tent. So just to give you some idea of the ground that we have, it was a warmer year than usual and there was little snow. So basically you had on land frozen permafrost, which is frozen rock solid, and there was a very thin layer of snow on top, maybe 5 centimeters, something like that. And it's not really snow, it's more the texture of crumbly ice, of shaved ice, with no holding power. So basically classic snow stakes, which I have multiple variants from. These were the fantastic Hilleberg ones. I didn't take long because before departure I judged that the snow cover was simply too light for them to be useful at all. What didn't work as well is my usual go-to stake in ground, which is the MSR Cyclone stakes. These are pretty long and rugged, longer than the standard Hilleberg stakes. These are simply too long to pound into the frozen permafrost. They would stick out far too much and there would be too much leverage, so that didn't work. I brought some of them along, but they failed, so that was not a good idea. What did work were these titanium pegs by Hilleberg. Expensive but really rugged, very good titanium pegs. These were pretty easy to hammer into the ground. I have my ice axe with me always, so that worked well. However, the problem was that I had a lot of difficulty getting them back out of the ground. So I broke quite a lot of loops trying to pull with the attachment of my ice axe or the tip of my ice axe, and I had to hammer them sideways, and meaning that I basically messed up quite a few and had to leave 2 into the ground there, which I think in an ethos of leaving no trace behind is something I would not want to do. I also wasted precious hot water trying to get them out, and that didn't work as well. So they go in, but they didn't come out again. So what would be other options? Well, I know Hilleberg has X-pegs. The X-pegs are from extruded aluminum. They're very strong because they're X-shaped. I'm pretty sure they must be able to handle some sideways kicking or hammering, and so that might potentially be an option, but I have no experience with them at all, so I don't know. So what I ended up doing was staying on the lakes and anchoring my tent to the lakes. It's very easy. You've got a flat surface, you've got predictable ice, and so what worked very well are the ice screws that I had with me, Blue Ice or the Petzl ice screws. They both worked fine. The Blue Ice have a thicker diameter, so I must say that the inside ice core came out a little bit quicker. However, I only had 6 of them, meaning that I had to guy out my tent with 6 anchoring points where I needed quite a lot more. So what I did is that I looped, and you can see it in the picture, the bottom anchoring point where the tent loops go in. I had extra guide wires and I had extra runners, and so I looped it as well to the outer guide wires. That was okay because I had luck with the weather. I had very little wind, but that would not be an ideal configuration to sit out the storm, and that's not something I would try again. So that was luck, but not good planning. Obviously, I could go the route of choosing or buying another, in this case 12 ice screws, but at the cost of 60 to 80 euros an ice screw. That's a pretty expensive undertaking, and so I started thinking about alternatives. You've got, of course, these what they call Eskimo ice anchors. I have no experience with them. They're pretty difficult to find in Europe. I guess they're stainless steel. They look very heavy, but I can't find any details on that online. Because and they're heavy because you're carrying extra weight that you don't need, because you need the screw-in anchor to screw it in, but then afterwards it's redundant because you don't really need it because it's sticking outside. So I started thinking about making something myself, and the first thing I tried was a snake drill. It's a simple wood drill bit. And why a wooden drill or a drill bit for wood? Because they cut ice rather than shred. I made a small attachment for this so that I could screw it into ice. I tried it. It was a complete failure. I didn't manage to get it into the ice at all. It doesn't screw in, so that didn't work. So I went back to the drawing board, and then I thought, well, there's actually nothing more effective than an ice screw to screw a hole into the ice. And the outer diameter of the blue ice screws is basically 20 millimeters, 2 centimeters. And it's pretty easy to find aluminium tubing of 20 millimeters diameter. This is aluminium tubing with a wall thickness of 2 millimeters. So I didn't take the 1 millimeter thickness because I think that would be too thin to be able to wrench it out, because you need something to wrench it out. And so I took the 2 millimeter wall thickness and basically made 2 small prototypes. This one has a pointy end, drilled some holes to make it lighter, and here's a notch that I filed out and made smooth to put my guy wires around. And the idea is that once they are frozen into the ground, next morning I would give them a tap and then try to see if I can wrench them out with a simple old screwdriver. Or another tool that I can put in here. And that's why I needed the 2 millimeter thickness, just to have a wall thickness that is thick enough so that I can really put some leverage on this. Second prototype, I kept it straight, but I drilled out the inner part here so that it's cutting a little bit towards the outside edge and then cutting the snow towards the inside. And I have an nylon screw at the end just to hold my guide wires. That's turning out not to be a good idea, but because I've since learned that these nylon screws become very brittle in cold weather and will break off. So I probably need a simple normal screw. So I tested them you first need a good block of ice, which is large enough, because if you have a small block of ice and you try to screw in an ice screw, it just crumbles apart. And so I had a big block of ice that I kept in the freezer for 3 days at minus 20 degrees. Pretty easy to drill in the ice screws, as you can see. And then also, the pegs that I made myself fit perfectly, although they didn't go quite as deep as the depth of the ice screw reached. So I simply think that I will need a longer ice screw, few centimeters longer. The pegs are too long for the moment. I think I only need something like 15 centimeters. They were 20 centimeters now, just because I had a 1 meter tube and I cut it into 5 pieces. So I think I will make them somewhat shorter and a longer ice screw, and then I will get them pretty much into the ground, sticking out only 1 or 2 centimeters, which should be ideal. Since the guide wires are pulling really almost vertically on that, it should be more than strong enough. Obviously, the big question is, can I get them out in the morning? And that is what we will see tomorrow. Right, so these have been in the freezer now for approximately 16 hours, which is pretty comparable to the longest period that I would have them in the ice. The freezer was at minus 20. They are... okay. This one pops out pretty easily. Great. And this one is clearly stuck. So let's see if we can get it out quickly. Yeah. Yep. That worked. A bit of ice on the outside and on the inside, but that came out better than expected. So all in all, pretty happy with that. So these homemade ice pegs are a work in progress, and I will only bring them along if I'm happy with the final result. I know that there are other solutions. I could obviously buy more ice screws. I would need 10 additional ice screws, which would come to around €1,000. That would be a good and effective solution, but very costly. Obviously, I know about the trick of having a longer ice screw, drilling a vertical hole and then drilling a connecting side hole, threading the guide wire in, pulling it out, and then looping it around the ice and having the lake ice itself as your anchor point. It's a cheap and very light solution. The only downside it is time consuming to do it. And there might be situations where I want to get my tent up pretty quickly, and so this would be a lot quicker. These are around 50 grams a piece, which is somewhat lighter than the 80 grams of the ice screws, and certainly the blue ice screws are some of the lightest on the market. But more importantly, the material cost for this is around euro 50 a piece, so that would be a substantial saving, going from 1,000 euros to approximately 15 euros. I'm pretty sure they will be strong enough if I can get them into the ground 13 centimeters, sticking out 2 centimeters. I mean, you've simply got a guy line pulling perpendicularly on this. It should be more than enough to hold it in place. Remember, ice screws are not made primarily to guy out tents. They are made to break falls from people going vertically up an ice cliff and potentially saving their life. So they are over-engineered for a far more demanding problem. So this, I think and hope, will be a good solution, but I look forward to your comments and certainly to your critiques. I might be overlooking far simpler solution and overthinking it. So this will be for when I camp on the frozen lakes, which will be my primary choice. If I can't camp on the frozen lakes, depending on the snow cover, if there's good snow cover, obviously I will take the snow packs, giving me far more versatility. If there's no good snow cover and I need to camp on the permafrost, I think I will again take these titanium stingers from Hilleberg, the remaining ones that I have, and supplement them with the icepegs from Hilleberg as a good solution, and maybe some steel construction nails of the same length, because I know that is also a solution that some people use. But again, I'm very open to suggestions, and I will keep you informed of the progress.